Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Reggae Up Yourself with me, your host, the Fuchaman. And people, as you can see on screen, we got the great Dehvan Othieno. Good afternoon, my brother. How are you?
Greetings, future man. I'm on red. I'm on cool.
See?
With everything that's going on. Right now, I am just grateful that I'm still alive
True,
and I'm fit and okay.
true. Well,
Yeah.
that's a good thing. We got to give thanks for that.
Yes, truly.
So how are you coping in the lockdown and this whole pandemic?
Well, on a level, still disappointed. Say the music now run,
Yes.
but it's not just me. One, everyone is feeling that as musician and artists in that kind of way. You know.
True, true.
Um, But it's funny when I sit back and think about it. I I never really, apart from when I travel to gigs and things like that,
Mm-hmm.
I never really go out for entertainment as such.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah,
it
yeah,
has it
yeah.
has to be. When I say that, I mean like every Friday, every Saturday, me dip on the tone and them kind of thing there. More
Yeah, yeah.
time, I man just sit down with my guitar, and my pen and my paper, and and whatever instruction instruction books. Cause me still a study the guitar.
Yes,
So
man.
whatever instruction books I have to teach me the way for progress, me
True.
just sit down with that. And so lockdown, me was in lockdown long before lockdown come. If you want to put it that way there, you know?
Yeah, yeah, well, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah, yeah.
So if you got that guitar, if you got an acoustic guitar, we might have to call on you later to play or something in it. Since you're
Okay.
practicing, you can show us what you're learning, so we can decide how well you're doing. No pressure.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. All right. So basically, Reggae Up Yourself, as you know, is all about giving people. Basically, it's literally like a video bio. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So let's take you back. Where exactly are you from?
Okay. Normally when I get asked this question ordinarily,
Yeah.
um, I would tell people that I'm an African,
Yes. Naturally. Naturally.
because that's where it starts.
Naturally.
But on a more general level, I understand what it is you're asking. So
Yes.
in response, I would say I was born in Jamaica. You
Yes.
know, I was
So
born in Jamaica, and so therefore that makes me an African Jamaican, if you want to do them kind of things.
well, it's not. It's not. If it's not. If I want to do this kind of thing, this is something that I tell people all the time that I am African first and then Jamaican. So
Yeah, for
so
real.
we share the same thing. So so we share the same views, and it's not
Yeah,
just the same views; it's the same history,
yeah, yeah,
basically.
yeah.
So but basically because I mean we're talking about in terms of like born and raised kind of thing.
Yes, 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 yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So we're exactly in Jamaica.
Okay, so my journey, my conception
Mhm.
was in the district called Yalas in St. Thomas,
Okay.
you know,
Hmm.
because that's where I was born.
Yes.
Um, and I spent the first 3 years of my life there,
Hmm.
being nurtured by my mother and father,
Hmm.
um, until they decided to take that journey to come to England.
Hmm.
I was born in 1956. So as you know, during that times there was a lot of um, movement between America, Canada, the UK,
Hmm.
and Jamaica, or the Caribbean, more generally speaking.
Hmm.
So when the parents was, I mean, my story is pretty much like a lot of other people's story, but I will tell you still.
Yeah, so true.
So when my parents was coming over, they didn't know, along with a lot of the other ones that did come at that time,
Hmm.
they didn't know what they were coming into.
Yeah.
And they didn't have no friend or family here.
Hmm.
So they left me behind. They left me behind with extended family, grandparents and aunts and uncles and stuff like that,
Mm-hmm.
until they could find their feet um, in England,
Yeah.
set up themselves, and then, the story, them send for you, you
Yes.
know. So from 3 until um, 12, I was reared in Jamaica lifestyle. So my early years were spent growing up in Jamaica.
Oh,
But it wasn't Jamaica, Yala St. Thomas, where I was born.
yeah.
From 3 years old, I was moved to Kingston,
Mm-hmm.
in particular, the Rockfort area, East Kingston,
Yeah.
hmm hmm
So basically, you were one of the part of your parents at least is part of the Windrush generation.
Yes, you could call it that. They came over. I think they came over on a ship. Yeah.
Okay.
Um, I
All
don't.
right.
I would have to check that still because
Yeah.
I accept that they may, they would more
Yeah.
likely have come over on ship, but they could have easily flown. You know.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. So and so basically, cause I'm listening to the fact that you mentioned about born in like early 50s. Does that mean that you kind of got some kind of like memories of when Jamaica allegedly became so-called independent? And I will use the word so-called, so-called
Yeah.
independent.
Yes, I was around at the time, although as you would imagine, very young.
Yes, of
Um,
course.
when Jamaica got their independence.
I mean, so-called independence, not lose your independence so loosely. I mean, it's,
Yes,
we're
yes,
not,
of course, of
we
course.
shouldn't do that. Use it so loosely because we
Yeah.
know that it's still not independence. But yeah, but so-called independence.
Yes, yes. So they gave us that, whatever it is that they gave us.
Yes.
And at that time, as a young child,
Mm-hmm.
um, there was no political connection to that. It was just
Yeah.
one big party,
Yes.
celebration. People make independence tune, flag waving, and you know all the trappings and stuff that went on with a country that was celebrating their
Yeah.
independence
Yes.
from the colonial masters.
Yeah. Little do they know what was to come next, but we won't focus on that too much.
Yeah, for real.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, what was it like when you arrived in the UK? Then, can you remember what it was like at that point in comparison to like now?
Well, okay. I arrived in the UK in 1969.
Okay.
Yeah, 1969.
Mm-hmm.
And as a 11, 12-year old, first time I travel, first time on an aeroplane.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it was all one big adventure. It was
Yeah.
all one big adventure. And I happened to arrive in the UK in the nighttime.
Mm-hmm.
And as I said, it was in 1969. I don't know if I mentioned the month, but it was April.
Okay.
So
A little bit
April,
cold.
still kind of chilly. April still kind of chilly,
Yeah.
So when my mother and father meet me, they had a big coat for me to put on,
Mm-hmm.
and of course the lights made an impression on me.
Yes.
Um, driving down through what I now understand is the motorway.
Yeah.
There was all the lights, and then when I got to the areas now where there was houses,
Yes.
um, there was I saw chimneys on the
Mm-hmm.
roof, and then there was smoke coming out of them. So
Yeah.
so I asked the question, why is there so many factories? Because as far as as far as I'm concerned, back home in Jamaica is only
Factories.
factories that
That's it.
have them kind of chimney on the top with smoke coming out.
Yeah.
So then it was explained to me, and I came to understand that. I came to understand that in a very realistic way, you know, that
Yes.
you have to have fire inside the house in order to keep warm. Well,
Yeah.
you know, it was a big adventure.
Well, I suppose it wasn't as bad as this story my mom used to tell me about when this little girl from country got taken to Kingston for the first time when there was no streetlights in country. She was pointing at the streetlights in Kingston to her mom, saying, "Mom, look at that moon pan stick." They got a lot of moon pan stick in Kingston. They never
Okay.
see anything or any big light that high
Yeah,
before. So she
yeah,
see
yeah,
some moon
for
pan
real.
stick.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So
You know, the other thing,
mhm.
the other thing that really made an impression on me, then make us put it that way, was the way they arranged the houses.
Yes.
You know, because as you know, in Jamaica, we don't have terrace houses. You know, all the houses are either detached,
Yeah, yeah,
as they call it, or semi-detached. So
yeah.
you have a house, then a piece of land, then a fence,
Mm-hmm.
then a next house. But
Yes.
you don't have two houses with the wall
By
together.
and to each other. Yeah, yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah.
So and then in one long row like that. So that was another thing
Was
um
new.
that
Mm?
made an impression on me to say, well, what is that, or is that to be? And
Yes.
then and then the front door was right next to the road.
Yes.
Whereas, as you know, Jamaica, you go through a gate and
Yeah.
you walk up a little path,
And then go to the door.
and then you go in at your front door. You go at your front door. So
Yes, for
there
sure.
was a lot of things
Yeah.
to cope with
Yes.
in
Yes.
terms of like a culture shock then, because yeah, you know, as a youth, you wouldn't see them things.
It is. I think one of the thing while we on that I remember that I find very interesting when I first arrived in England was the high-rise flats. Because initially when I first see them, I was like thinking in Jamaica it would be a hotel or a school or something that looks like those. You know what I mean? That house where
Uh-huh.
everybody live in a massive high-rise building. You know what I mean? In Jamaica, if you see something that big, it's driving past an hotel. You know what I
Okay,
mean?
yeah,
Not like a
yeah.
whole lot of different families living in there. So that was also a new thing for me as well. But
Mm-hmm.
let's talk about your music interest. Where did this when did this develop? Is this something that you was born doing, or you getting it from some other angles?
Well, here the story gonna. I try to make it succinct. Um, I first heard a guitar when I was in Jamaica as a child,
Yeah.
and so the way I calculate it is that I came to England when I was 12,
Yeah.
and I remember hearing the guitar several years before that.
Mm-hmm.
So I calculate that it must have been either 8 or 9
Mm-hmm.
when I first heard this guitar, maybe even younger. And the occasion was right where our house was,
Mm-hmm.
there was a road, and then there was a park on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
And one day I stand up by the fence in my house, and I see two men come by the fence in the park, and one of them had a guitar.
Yes.
And future, may I tell you, when the man strummed the guitar, cause me never hear a guitar before in my life like that. You know, me hear
Yeah.
music, but I never heard a guitar in the flesh, so to speak.
Yes.
And when I heard that sound, it was like nothing I'd ever heard before. It was like angels, it was like something out of heaven.
Yes.
And I was totally fascinated by it, totally fascinated. Then a few months after that, walking down my street to go home one day, maybe from school or coming from shop or something like that.
Yeah.
I heard this sound coming from a house.
Mm.
Down, 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 down. Me never know what it was. So I ask somebody and them say, it's a guitar.
Mm-hmm.
And I say, but wait, this guitar thing, it can make a whole heap of different sound. It was fascinating.
I think this was an electric guitar.
Yes. But I didn't realize that then, but yes, I understand now that it must have been an electric guitar.
Yes.
Yeah, man. And so that was my first encounter with the guitar, with music in a kind of direct way, because we hear music all the time. We listen to record and jukebox and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So when I came to England and started school, um, they had a gathering that they call assembly. First thing in the morning,
Yes.
everybody gather in the school hall, and they had assembly. And certain schools, maybe you would sing songs, and the headmaster would read out certain things, maybe for the day, or what was coming for the week or something like that.
Yes.
And in my particular school, they had a teacher. It was the art teacher who played guitar.
Yeah.
And so he taught several of the students to play guitar, or maybe they even had guitars in their own homes,
Mm-hmm.
because I came to realize that it was quite a common thing to own a guitar, whereas back in Jamaica, you have to have a whole heap of money.
Yes.
So anyway, they used to play guitar at assembly, and we used to sing certain songs.
Mm-hmm.
So that went on and on and on until when I get to the sixth form. When I was close up in the sixth form, they had some people who would bring their guitar in and just leave it lying down, in the sixth form common room.
Yeah.
And anybody who feel like they could hold a card or anything like that, pick it up and play it. And it seemed like it wasn't everybody, but it seemed like a lot of people could pick it up and play just a little thing.
Yeah.
Whereas I couldn't. So, got the story. I eventually got myself a guitar. I saved up my money and went to a shop down in Stokescroft called Mickleburs.
Yeah.
That shop is still there now.
Yeah.
And that's where I bought my first guitar.
Still
And
selling guitars now as well?
yeah. I bought my first guitar, and I bought a book, an instruction book called Play in a Day.
Yeah.
I thought, okay, but I didn't realize that when they say play in a day, it was literally playing. It wasn't literally playing in a day, but
Not,
I got whatever learning I got from that, and because that book, I have to say, gave me pretty good instruction.
mm-hmm.
It was my foundation to chords and chord sequences and stuff like that. So yeah, that's how I come up on the music. So I started once I learned a few chords,
Yeah.
I started to strum, and then that led on to me writing my first song, and then eventually going on to join the group that was at the local youth club.
Mm-hmm.
In my particular case, it was the Mill Youth Center, you know. I'm sure you know the place.
So before we go there, I just want to go back to when you wrote your first song. How old were you then?
Um, I would have been, I would have been 15.
Okay.
Yeah, I would have been 15 when I wrote my first song.
Yeah.
Um, because I was still at school.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it must have been, I never really thought about that before, I'm glad you asked me
Well,
that.
this is
I'm
why I'm
glad you
doing this
asked me
because
that because I think it's quite significant.
it is. And I asked you this as well because my next question was going to be, can you remember the song?
Future, let me tell you something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can remember it.
Yeah?
Yeah. Um, that song became once I got in a band,
Yeah.
you know, um, it became one of the more standard popular songs that the band played,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
And if you imagine that, if you think that the band that I was in started up in 1977,
Yes.
1977, 78.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that band went on till um, 2018 when I left that band.
Wow.
And yes, and that band, that song was still being played. It was still being played in the band the time that I left.
From 1970
77,
to 2018.
2018.
You know what my next thing is gonna be though, because people will not forgive me if I actually don't ask you to give us a little acapella of this song. I think everybody
Okay.
I think this would be like unforgiving, and I could understand why people don't want to hold me to account.
Okay. So it went like this. How long? Tell me how long must I go on? Taking the strain, taking the strain. How long? Tell me how long must I go on? Taking the strain, taking the strain, yes. In the midst of poverty, I was born. I've got nowhere to call my home. Tell me how long this pain is gonna last. I've got to strike now because time is moving fast. How long? Tell me how long must I go on? Taking the strain and so on.
Yo, brother. Well, that's actually it's quite impressive for a 15-year-old
It's a heavy
to
tune,
actually come up with
but
such a positive and deep meditation of
yes, the story behind that now is that I was impressed
mhm.
in those times by the Rasta man.
Yes.
In fact, my impression from Rastafari started in Jamaica as a youth,
Okay.
but it never really come to the fullness until I was in a place where I could express that. But I remember as a youth in school, it was primary school,
Yeah.
so I must have been 7, 8, and at break time, what we call recess. We used to
Yeah,
call it
man, I remember.
recess,
I know the
right?
recess. Yeah.
So recess, you used to have some vendors who would bring certain things to the school fence and the school gate. I
Yes,
mean,
man.
you know what I'm
Yes,
talking about,
man. Come on. I know.
right?
I'll sell it over the
So,
fence and sell it through the little wall to the fence and
all right.
collect the money. Yeah.
So So there was some Rasta man there. There was a Rasta man there that was selling sweets.
Yes.
He would sell what we call asham. You know asham?
I can't remember it, but I
You don't know
didn't.
asham. Okay, so he used to sell asham.
Mm-hmm.
He used to sell mash and icy mint and meatball, all them kind
Of
of
course,
sweets.
yes, yes.
So one day we go buy some mash mash. Mash mash is just basically the crumbs of the sweets. You know, like they sell broken biscuits
Oh
here.
yeah, I know what you mean. Now, you used to sell it
Right. So
in some little bag. You got
they
like the
used to
stick
pack them in
candy,
some
them
little thing, yes.
mash up candy, tiny little bag, and you buy a little mash up candy.
That's right. That's
I
right.
know it is. Yeah,
So
yeah.
I went to get some mash mash from him.
Yes.
And he was a proper Rasta man, you know, him have on him tam and everything, and
Yes.
him had a big beard.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what it is. I was fascinated with the beard.
Yes.
So I couldn't stop myself. Me lean over and
Yeah.
squeeze the beard and squeeze the beard. Just out of childish curiosity, you know.
Yeah.
And he wasn't cross with me, but
Yeah.
he did tell me, say, no, I mustn't do that.
Yes.
You know, that I mustn't touch the beard or the hair.
Yes.
But that was my first encounter with a Rasta man. And
Okay.
then, you know, in school we used to play a bongo jump and
Yeah,
the
man.
test them
Yeah,
at
man.
school. So that's how I know that the Rastafari thing was in me from very young.
True. I know the
Anyway,
feeling of that.
yeah. So when I came to write that tune now, I was still watching the Rasta man. And I
Yeah.
noticed that the kind of songs they would sing, I come to understand now, was, you know, revolutionary, militant type of songs.
True.
And in 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 um in a lot of cases,
Yes.
um, they were a lot of the influences came from the Bible.
Yes, that's true.
You know, they were biblical.
Mm-hmm.
So when I came to write a song now, all that influence came out in the song that I was writing.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
so
Makes
that's
sense.
how come I would write a tune like that.
It makes
It
sense. It
wasn't,
makes sense.
yeah, it wasn't my own personal experience
Yes.
um of my own to say write that tune, but I projected to say, yeah, well, the Rastaman always sing about this, and you know, the militant and overcoming obstacles and those kind of ways. And so when I sit down to write, no, when I learn my little cards and sit down to write, that's what me write about.
Well, it makes sense, you know what I mean? It's, you see, I am a strong believer that the kind of music that you listen to can determine your mood and things, you know what
Yeah,
I mean?
man.
You know, if
Yeah,
you
man,
think you listen
absolutely.
to positive music, then you kind of feel positive and empowered that you can do anything. Though
Hmm.
when you're listening to like a sad song, all you can think of is things that went wrong in your life or the thing that's going wrong. You can't see anything bright, you know what I mean?
True,
Likewise,
true.
if you're listening to a song that make you want to feel like you want to dance, you want to get up and dance. So I think that music
Mhm.
is so powerful that people really need
Yes,
to
man.
use it in the
I
right way.
think in a lot of cases we underestimate the power of music.
Naturally, it's
You
true.
know,
That's
the
true. Yeah.
power of music. It can change your mood. It can make you happy. Make you sad.
Yeah.
You know.
So can you tell me at what stage with while working with the band and stuff like that, you actually realize that actually, you know what, this is definitely the route and I can make something great out of this, because you guys have done amazingly. And you guys have done amazingly for many years, and I didn't realize that's how long that band was together.
Yeah. You know, the band started in 1977, 78,
Mm-hmm.
and it went on through till 1985, 86. And that's when we had our first break, so to speak, because
Yes.
it wasn't a unbroken run from 1977.
Mm-hmm.
Um, as you know, with bands, people come and go. So it's one of the most difficult um, things to hold a band together over a long period of time.
Yeah, and
Unless,
I've been there already
yeah,
in my band for a few years.
yeah.
So nowadays,
Um,
yeah.
and so 1985, 86 was the first split.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason behind that was that we were coming of an age now where, the young man them had them girlfriends and them woman and things like that, and they were having them their first children, and thinking about family.
Yeah.
And so people wanted something a little bit more solid, a little bit more secure,
Yeah.
to put down roots and start to grow a family.
Mm-hmm.
But the music business is another thing now where it doesn't recognize that your aspirations towards growing a family and success within the industry, they don't go together. They keep going like this. They keep missing one another.
It hardly go together with relationship full stop, never mind adding kids to it.
Yeah, yeah. You have to
Find a balance, yeah.
spend a long time. Yes, you have to spend a long time. And if your dedication to music is not firm,
Mm-hmm.
you know, um, then you will move on. If music wasn't really your calling,
Mm-hmm.
then you will put it down
Yes,
because you have to make a choice.
that's true.
You have to make a choice whether it's music that I'm gonna follow and go where the music takes you,
Yes.
or whether you succumb to the calling of family, setting down rules and securing a future for yourself
That's true.
in,
That's
in,
true.
in another way.
Yes.
And there are many things that can contribute to your decision. It could be family and friends, um, the current girlfriend that you had at the time, how much influence she had on you within that.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the other side, how strong um, was your calling in the music that you just could not put it down, you know?
That's also a very important point as well. A lot of people don't get
Yeah,
that, but it's a very
a,
massive
a,
point.
a lot of relationships went by the way, you know. In music, relationships start and they finish because the musician will decide, I'm going to pursue this. I'm gone.
Mm-hmm.
Um, or the woman might decide, well, I need something more secure. I'm thinking about family and all that kind of thing. So if you can't provide that for me, I'm going to go somewhere else. So there's no blame.
No,
There's
no,
no
no.
blame. It's just
Because
decisions that
people
people make.
exactly. I mean, like it involves a whole lot of compromise. And
Yes.
it's normally the compromise is mainly depend on the person outside of the band or out of the music have
Yeah.
to make
Yeah.
the most compromise. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah. So when that first time when you got that break, was that like a record deal, a song going like start to hit the you know world kind
Well, I don't know. I don't know if I could ever describe what happened with Talisman, because the Talisman is the group I'm talking about.
Yes, of course.
I was never, apart from a brief time when I was in the youth club. We
Mhm,
had a little band going there where you first start off and you
mhm,
try and sort yourself out. And we had a couple of times when we played actually in the club, um, and then maybe we went to another youth club and played something. But
mhm.
aside from that, Talisman was my first band. Um, and so the we being myself and Denison,
Mm-hmm.
as we progress through, Denison came from another band, I came from one band, we got together.
Yeah.
And we then went and found all the other components, like, the drummer and keyboard player, a
Mm-hmm.
horn player. And in between that time, what happened was, because back then, back then, there was a lot more opportunities, a lot more venues
Yeah.
to play music in.
Mm-hmm.
Lots more. I'm talking lots more,
Yes.
you know? So you could be working 2, 3 times a week just in Bristol alone,
Yeah, amazing.
with with all the venues that were around at the time. So, and that's how we actually made our name. And
Yeah.
then that's not even counting, jumping over to Bath,
Mm-hmm.
right? Bath was almost like a second home to us. In fact,
Mm-hmm.
Bath was the place where Talisman played their first gig.
Okay. And
Yes.
does that venue still exist?
No, it doesn't. Not as a music venue, but the place is still there.
Okay.
It was called Longacre Hall.
Mm.
And if you ask anybody, of a certain age about Longacre Hall in Bath, they
Yeah.
will tell you the history and the thing that went, behind it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
So,
So that's how. And then what would happen was, um, word of mouth. Word of mouth was the thing that got you gigs,
yes.
or you could just go in and find out who the promoter was in a certain venue, and basically beg him a gig.
Yeah.
Beg him a gig. He might hear about you, he may not, and then you have to convince him that it was worth giving you a gig, and he might try you out, and yeah, you work out good, and then and word spread. So
Yes.
so that's how come Talisman got popular. And
Yeah.
then we had a band that was very musical.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we had a brother playing lead guitar called Leroy Forbes.
Mm-hmm.
He was an excellent, or he still is an
Mm-hmm.
excellent guitarist.
Yeah.
Um, we had Donald D. Cordova, we call him Metro.
Yeah.
He was on drums. As far as I understand it, his influence was Sly,
Mm-hmm.
from Sly and Robbie.
And Robbie, yes, of course. Slide on
Um,
board.
yeah, Sly Dunbar.
Yeah.
Um, in the bassman, obviously Dennison as the bassman.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and as far as I understand it, his influence was Family Man from the Wailers.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then we had a keyboard player. I don't know particularly where his influence came from, but he was very good. His name was Mikey Taylor.
Yeah.
Mikey Taylor, keyboard player.
Yeah.
And so we were fortunate to have a group of musicians that were very tidy in their technical ability,
Yes.
and their musical ability. So wherever we went and played, the sound was good, and the performance went down well, and so we were always invited back. With whatever venue we went and played in, we was always invited to come back and play. And so word of mouth went round. um, yeah, we played liquor festivals, we did the St. Paul's Carnival. um, Back then, pretty much every year there was no restrictions on how often you could play.
Yeah.
um, Whereas nowadays, they you play one year, you can't play the next year, and so. But yeah,
Yeah. I mean, like I've been fortunate enough to see you guys play quite a few times actually. I remember the
Mhm.
first time I saw you guys play, I was like the support act in Newport. I was opening up a gig for you guys in Newport with Mr. Hipster, I think it was.
Okay.
Newport.
Yes.
I think that was the first time I see you guys play. This was
Yeah, I think I
quite a
remember
few
that
years ago.
still. Yeah.
Yeah, it was quite
Mhm.
a few years ago, you know.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
so now, actually, before my next question, can you where is the most memorable place you've been to and play, whether the UK or outside of the UK, and thinking actually that just leave like great memories with you, like ever, like kind of like different from everything you ever done?
Well, two gigs come to mind.
Yes,
Um, and the reason there's lots of them, but I'll pick out these two
yes,
because of their size.
yes.
One was the main stage at Glastonbury.
Oh wow, that's incredible.
Yes.
What year was that? Can you remember?
Oh my gosh. 19 1981, 82. Yeah.
Yeah,
Something around those times, around 81, 82.
the main stage in
Um,
Glastonbury. That's amazing.
yeah. But the way that we got that
Yeah.
um was just we had a drummer
Mhm.
um who he was a little bit of a hippie. You
Yeah.
know, not I'm not saying that in a malicious way,
No, of
but he
course.
was a bit of a hippie.
Yeah.
Um, and he just blagged his way. He knew people,
Yeah.
and so the very first time we got on there,
Hmm.
um, he knew the guy who was the stage master,
Yeah.
and he went and asked him if we could get on to do 20 minutes.
Yes.
And the guy said he don't know. We should just hang around there,
Yeah.
and if between the changeovers
Yeah.
anything anything comes up, then we must just be ready to come on. There would be no sound check. There would be nothing. We just come on, set up, and play. And that
Yes.
was the very first time. But
Yes.
then after that, now our name got out of it,
Hmm.
and a few years went past, and then we actually got invited to play at Glastonbury, and that was because they used to do um, some what they call them, like some charity gigs.
Hmm.
They used to do some charity gigs for the Glastonbury.
Yeah.
So we managed to get on some of those charity gigs where
Hmm.
you played for next to nothing,
Hmm.
or sometimes maybe even did it free. And
Yeah.
but then the reward for that
Hmm.
would be that the next Glastonbury that you'd be guaranteed to have a gig there, not necessarily on the main stage, but
Yes.
you'd be guaranteed to get on one of the stages in Glastonbury, you
Yes.
know?
Hmm.
Um, so we did a few of those. And then one year we got invited to play on the main stage.
Amazing.
Man, I'm telling you, thousands of people,
Oh, it's incredible.
thousands of people. And if you can imagine back in those times,
Hmm.
um, a reggae band on the main stage. But by this time now in the future, man,
Yes.
by this time now, we were well popular across the Southwest,
Yeah.
because in between those times, we were doing gigs down south in Plymouth and Portsmouth, you
Hmm.
know, in up back the other way in Swindon. We
Yeah.
even went to we even went to London,
Yeah.
and did several shows at the famous 100 Club,
Hmm.
right, in Oxford Street.
Yeah.
Um, the the 100 Club is famous for jazz,
Hmm.
you know, and but then they started to spread out. Um, and bringing little odd promoters to, just to change the face of the club a bit. So they started having some reggae shows.
Yes.
And I think it was our saxophone player. His name is Brendan Whitmore. He's passed away now.
Yeah,
But
bless
I
you.
think it was him who managed to secure our gig at the 100 Club. So we played there once, but it wasn't the first time that we played there.
Yeah.
We went back and back and back, and because we we like I said, we wherever we went and played, we always made such an impression that the people would want us back.
That's amazing.
So Glastonbury was the first one, and then the other memorable gig is supporting the Rolling Stones at Bristol City Football Ground.
Amazing.
Yes.
The
Yes,
legendary Rolling Stone rock band.
yes,
Right?
yes, proper things.
So you met Mick Jagger. Did you meet Mick Jagger?
Yes, I met Mick Jagger. In fact, he was the only one of the Stones who came to our dressing room to find out how we were, asking if we had everything that we needed in terms of rider, food, drinks, whatever. I hear stories about what people say about Mick Jagger.
Yeah.
A lot of them not necessarily good things, but my experience with him, that he was a down to earth, a cool brother,
Yes.
Yeah, he came over to our dressing room and checked us out. How you doing? You got everything you need? Sat down, had a chat, had a smoke, and all that kind of thing.
Yeah. Big respect to Mick Jagger for sure.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
So I can say officially that I've done a stadium. I've done a stadium show. Talisman did a stadium show.
Yeah.
Between that and Glastonbury, although in terms of size, it probably would have been the same. I have to put the stadium gig at number one because it was with the Rolling Stones.
And also it was in your hometown as well.
It was in hometown as well, So yeah, I would say that was the most impressionable gig because the stage was huge, and in those times, not normally the stages we play at, you take 5 or 6 steps and that's it. You come to the end of the stage on one side, and then maybe 2 or 3 steps forward, and you're at the edge of the stage, the other side.
Yeah.
So when I found myself on a stage,
100-meter long,
you almost like didn't know what to do with all that space. It was certainly a learning experience,
Yes, it is. Yeah, I kind of get it. I am laughing because I remember the first time I've been in a few stages, which was quite big, and I'm thinking I can't just stay in this one spot or that one corner, but it's a mission getting around from one to the other, and people is on all about. And then in the middle as well.
You have to know what you're doing.
Yeah, all of a sudden I got like 7 people in my band at the time, and when I look back on the video, the stage never feel this big. The stage feel empty, like some of the band members was missing because normally it's crowded.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm laughing in my head, because I remember a couple of stages where you start getting on bigger stage, and I was thinking, wow, this is a whole lot of space. Where's everybody?
Yeah.
So
those experiences help me to develop my art.
Yes,
to develop my understanding of what you do on a stage when you've got all that space.
Yes.
My perception of how you would work a stage, because if you don't have an understanding of how you do that, you could look lost.
Yes, of course. Yeah, that's true. That's
So
true.
yeah, stagecraft. I learned stagecraft at the highest level.
Right? And I suppose that you would be oozing with confidence and self-belief after doing that because, you know,
Yes, yeah, man.
that's,
Because
that's, that's at the top of the
you
tree there.
know, yeah, in even now, even now, um, when I mention Talisman to people, although you know I've moved on from that group now,
Mm-hmm.
um, they'd say, "Yeah, I remember when you played with the Rolling Stones at Ashton Gate. You know,
Right?
very big
That's,
show."
that's amazing. So this is the
Mhm.
other thing we're gonna move on to now is you have now got a different band, a new band that's created by you as well right now. It's
Mhm, mhm.
can you tell me about a bit about this new band, please?
Well, the band is not necessarily created in its entirety as yet,
Yeah.
but I certainly I moved on from Talisman in 2018.
Mm-hmm.
I played my last show with them at the Attic Bar in December of 2018,
Yeah.
and I decided that I was gonna go solo
Mm-hmm.
because there were, among other things, sometimes when you're in a band and you're writing for that band, it's almost like you're compartmentalized, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but as a writer, there was other things, other songs and ideas that I was producing,
Mm-hmm.
um, which didn't necessarily fall into the category of what the band, because we became known as a roots
Yes.
reggae band,
Yes.
you know. And so therefore there were some things that some ideas that I would write songs about which didn't necessarily fit into that category.
Yes.
And so I just felt like, well, in order for me to give room for my own personal development,
Mm-hmm.
um, it was time for me to move on.
How did the rest of the band take that?
Well, um, with any breakdown, because it was a bit of a breakdown.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if you're losing your front man, you know,
It's a big
the
deal.
if you're losing, it's like you would lose Freddie Mercury from Queen, or
Yeah.
Paul McCartney from the Beatles, or from Wings.
Yes.
It's never the same,
Yes, that's true.
because I was the front man and the face of Talisman from its inception right up to that point,
Yes. Yes.
you know. Um, Whereas, so the sound of Talisman was built around my songs,
Yes.
you know. Um, you could bring in a new lead guitarist, or you could bring in a new keyboard player, and it wouldn't be so much disruption,
Mm-hmm.
you know. But when you change the front man,
It is a massive change,
it,
especially for
it's
fans that been following you for a long time.
yeah, it's a big move.
It is, yes.
Um, so obviously, it didn't go down very well, but I just think that the time had come.
Yes.
The time had come. By that time,
Mm-hmm.
I'd spent 40 plus years in that band.
That's a long time. It must take a lot of courage
It's a lifetime. Yeah,
must take a lot of courage to make that shift. So
yeah.
so you what's the name of the new band again before I go on? What's the name of the new
So okay. So my new band name is Simmer Down.
Simmer down.
Simmer down, you know.
Nice name, nice.
Spelled Symmadon. Simmer down.
And
Yeah, so I'll be heading that group. At the moment, I'm working with some artists some musicians from Amsterdam. I was over there early part of 2019, just before this whole COVID thing, like lockdown and everything.
yes.
So I was over there and I was recording some tracks for a new album.
Okay.
You know? Yeah.
So you got a new album coming out. Am I gonna hear any Fuchaman feature on the new album, or?
Well, we've got about 5 tracks at the moment, so we're still recording.
There's still room.
Yes, yeah.
all right. So do you know when we can expect this album? We're looking at the later down this year, then I would take it.
Well, you see, all that is going to rest on the virus. Yeah, the coronavirus, and how we're allowed to mix and mingle. You understand?
Yeah,
because I haven't been able to do any recording now or travel for months, because you're not allowed to go and mix and be, you know, in enclosed spaces,
yeah,
with groups of people.
I understand it for real, yeah.
And in addition to that, you know, there's always the financial side of things.
That's true.
Which COVID is also dictating that as well, because you know, you get laid off, and so because it's self-financing, yes, then you know, there's no money coming from no deep pocket anywhere apart from your own. You understand?
True, right? Spending money but not making money.
So
it's going one way at the moment. Everything is going out.
Yes, yeah, for real.
Yeah,
but you know, I'm investing in myself, in my future. So I don't have no problem with that.
No, that's the important thing. So basically, also, before we wrapped up as well, I would like you to tell people exactly where they can find you, social media wise.
Okay, so I have a Facebook page under the name Dehvan Othieno.
Yes, can you spell that for us, please?
That's DEHVAN, and second Othieno is OTHIENO. So that's DEHVAN OTHIENO, and that Othieno was a name that I was given to on my first trip to Africa. Yes. You know, we stayed with a family in Kenya, in a village called Kisumu, and you know, we were talking about, you know, where we all come from in terms of where we were born and so on. And so when it came about and they heard, we stayed with different families, you understand? Yeah. So when it came about and they heard that the time of day that I was born and the date, then they said if I was in their village and born at that time, then I would have been given the name Othieno.
Oh, that's amazing. That's so much better way to name people than just pick up a random name. Yes, name that makes sense, that represent you and arriving on Earth.
Yes,
so much
yeah. Othieno means basically born at night. It was 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, so it was still dark, so it was still nighttime. So you'd have been given the name Othieno.
Okay, that's amazing. So have you got it? So basically, under the name Dehvan Othieno, you haven't made any official release yet, but have you?
But okay, so when you remember I told you a little back that 1985 was the first time that Talisman kind of hung up their guitars as a band,
Mm-hmm.
but it wasn't the end of music
Mm-hmm.
at that time. We all went off and did other things. Dennison was playing with a band called Jungle Red.
Mm-hmm.
He was playing bass for them.
Mm-hmm.
And in that time, what I did was I set up an independent label,
Mm-hmm.
and I recorded my first solo album
Mm-hmm.
called Raga Funkin',
Mm-hmm.
and and a second solo album, subsequent solo album
Mm-hmm.
called Dehvan My Story.
Okay.
And both of those CDs are out on my label called Wild Cherry Records.
Okay. So people
Yeah,
can go and check those out. So if people go and look for Wild Cherry Records, they can
Wild
check.
Cherry Records, Bristol.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they should be able to find those two CDs.
Okay.
Um, but they could always check me on my, if they're interested to hear,
Mm-hmm.
they could always check me on my Facebook page, Dehvan Othieno,
Yes.
and yeah, they should find some stuff there.
Okay.
Mm.
Excellent. Well, Dehvan Othieno,
Yeah.
it's been an absolute joy and a privilege to have you on the Reggae Up Yourself podcast, brother. And I wish you all the success with the new music, the new album, the new band, and everything. And I look forward to catch up with you soon, man. Take
Yes,
it.
man. Give thanks for inviting me in the future because unless we work for one another, then we won't have the kind of success and promotion. One of the things I notice about the musicians in the United States is
Yes.
that they don't have no problem in working with one another. You
True.
see some of the biggest stars, they
Yes.
bring out their album and they have a next one on there, either doing a track or in some form, or maybe in their video or something, but they always keep it.
Always supporting each other and together, but
Yes,
together, well, you know, united we stand, divided we fall is not just a made up thing. It is actually truth. We're stronger
yes,
together. So it's
yes,
very important.
absolutely.
It's very important to, to support each other in every way possible. So the
Mm.
pleasure is all mine, brother. So blessings.
Well, no, the pleasure is not all yours. We share the pleasure
We share
because
the pleasure. Blessings.
I'm also grateful that you would invite me onto your show, so we can
Blessings.
share the pleasure.
That's the for
Uh,
blessings, my brother. All
Give
right.
thanks and praise.
Thank you so much.
I do.
Still
Yeah,
blessings.
yeah.
One love. Blessings.
One love.
Yeah.